Welcome back. This is an interesting conversation that we want to have. As I promised you, Raphael Obonyo is here. You've just found me smiling and laughing about the youth affairs because it's going to be better for the young people. And I'm holding a book here, Conversations about the Youth in Kenya. We're going to talk about that in just but a bit. And the Kenya Youth Development Policy. I have Raphael Obonyo with me, who is a lot of things, and he's doing a lot of things. He's a policy analyst and a multi-award-winning, youth advocate. He has been doing a lot of things, and he's one of the guys also behind this very document that I hold here, the Youth Development Policy, that has been recently launched, and better things and things are looking up for the young people. Karibu sana.
Thank you so much, Mutegi, and it's a pleasure being on KUTV and of course being hosted by you.
Karibu sana. I appreciate also for your coming. Yeah. You're a busy man, and thanks for even having time to come talk to us so we can understand the state of our youth in this particular time. And let's just go in it. The first time youth are mentioned, people think about, oh, youth are crying, there are no jobs. Most of the time there are no jobs. Yeah. What is the biggest problem we are facing the young people today in Kenya?
I think that's a good question. The biggest problem facing the youth, there are quite a number of challenges affecting young people today, but the single most serious challenge and the biggest, one of the big burdens on the shoulders of young people is actually unemployment. Jobs. I think it's one of the key things that we need to talk about as a country. 70% of jobless people in this country are actually young people. And a majority of them are actually young people who have acquired some level of education. In fact, now, if you look at the statistics, over 50% of youth between ages 18 and 24 already have a high school level of education. And so they are going out there after high school or after college and hoping that they'll get some a job or sort of a way to make a living. And then they realize there are no jobs. So unemployment. Of course, there are many other challenges, but for me, it would be unemployment and exclusion. Exclusion from decision making, and exclusion from governance, exclusion from public service. Table.
Is it total exclusion, or do we have at least some people in the big tables, decision tables?
The ones who 80% of the population of this country is below people below age 35. We should see many more youth in positions of governance. We should see many more youth in public service. Yes. We should see more youth at the decision-making table. We don't see those numbers of youth. And few who are there not because they are young, but because they pledge their loyalty to some other people. So that's, again, the other challenge.
Yeah, there has been a complaint that some of the people who term themselves as young people in those particular tables are not anywhere close to young.
That's true. That's true. Also because, it's difficult as a young person to be accorded a seat at the table. And so many more young people are trying to fight to be at the table.
Why is it difficult for that to happen?
Because in the past and over the years, we've always emphasized experience. We've always locked out youth because we say they do not have experience. But my argument, and I think what I continue to push and champion, is that youth are not inadequate simply because they do not have experience. In fact, youth have something else that people who have experience do not have.
What is that?
Fresh ideas, creativity, talent that we have. We are now techno-savvy. You cannot dismiss youth simply because they do not have experience. They have fresh ideas, and fresh ideas are just as important as experience. And you just need to look at what is happening in the private sector and what young people are doing in the private sector. It is young people who are driving. They're the driving engine in the private sector, whether we're talking about innovation, whether we're talking about new ideas, whether we are talking about risk takers. It's these young people. But then you come to the public sector, you come to the public service, you don't see young people being accorded opportunities as as it's happening in the private sector. And so I think issues of emphasizing experience at the expense of fresh ideas continues to lock young people out. And then culturally, I think we've always imagined that youth are silent recipients, youth are in the waiting room, they're leaders of tomorrow. But youth are leaders of now. Of today. Yeah. We've seen across the world leaders are becoming younger and younger. You saw in Finland just the other day, the prime minister is now 35 years old. In Ukraine, we have a very young president, below 40. So I think across the world, people are getting to realize the importance and to recognize the talent, the knowledge, the fresh ideas, the creativity of these young people. And they're trying to harness and tap into that. We must do that as a country. Yeah.
And I believe as a country, we also have a responsibility of building our young people into places where they're able to apply that same, those same ideas that they have and whatever resources they have. Do you think education is changing in this particular country, even based on the recent happening where now the government has accepted people who with no KCPE and KCSE certificates to come into training, you know, to be offered training in terms of what they are doing?
Certainly, education is an important factor when if you're looking at ways of addressing unemployment, part of the problem that we've had as a country, or part of the challenge that we've had as a country, is that people, there've been a mismatch between the education system or the skills or the learning that goes on in schools and the requirements in the labor market. And I think as a result of that, the government has come up with different interventions. For example, review of the curriculum. We are rolling out now competence-based curriculum, which is going to look at not just grades, but who's going to look at what else have you been able to acquire, the skills, the knowledge, the experience, the talent. It's no longer emphasis on how good are you in class, but what else can you do, you know, which is a good thing. It's taken quite a bit, but it's a good idea that we are reforming that curriculum to ensure that we are equipping young people with the skills that they need to be able to fit in the labor market. That is one. Two, we've also had issues of an education that only churns out graduates, but that does not prepare them adequately to fit into the labor market. And so I think reforms of education is one. Two, we've seen introduction, or rather revamping of TVET, the technical vocational training, which is a good idea. Emphasizing the fact that we need certain skills in out there. And so it is very, very important that we create centers where young people can acquire these skills that are required in the labor market. You know, things like, helping to build more, to equip more plumbers, you know, people with more technical skills, which are required out there. So these kind of interventions that are geared towards helping young people to acquire the capacity and skills that are needed in the labor market is extremely important, because if we do not do that, we continue talking about the numbers of graduates that are coming out of universities, but there are no jobs for them. And part of it is because of the education system. So I think the reforms of in the education system is very, very important. And let me also just mention that the problem of unemployment now has mutated into something else. It's not just about youth unemployment. We now have educated but jobless youth, which is a more dangerous category of people, because this is not a category of people where you can just create any jobs for them. These are people who with certain levels of knowledge and skills, and they've gone to school, but you realize they're not able to meet their career aspirations because there are no jobs. You study to be an engineer, you get out there.
There are no spaces.
There are no spaces for engineers. You study to be a teacher, you get out there. There are no spaces for teachers. You study to be a nurse, you get out there. There are no spaces for nurses. And then you are locked into some corner and you're told you need to create your own job. You need to be an entrepreneur. I think we need to reform our education to be able to provide young people with the skills that will help them to fit into the labor market. Otherwise, you're going to have a more serious problem as a country.
Yes. And I think that's very key to note that there are many opportunities here and there. And we just maybe need to refocus our energies. That's what I hear you saying in the undertones, that because maybe parents have also been pushing people to go into other courses as well. And we have seen a lot of things change with the coming of this particular pandemic that we are in the middle of. Has it changed the way the youth live and thrive?
Oh, the pandemic. First of all, I think, let me start with the issue of the mindset and the attitude, that we need to also sort of help young people develop the attitude and the mindset that we are not just job seekers as young people, we are also job creators. And so we must progress with that knowledge that we are going out there not just to look for jobs, but also to create jobs. Yes. And that is where the idea of entrepreneurship comes in, that young people should start thinking of how can they be more innovative, how can they be more creative, how can they create more jobs. It's not just about you getting a job, it's also about you creating a few more jobs for other young people. Then the other issue is the formal versus informal. If you look at the formal sector, can only take up to maybe 20% of the working population. If you look at informal sector, that is where a majority of young working population is. 80% of the young working population is actually in the informal sector. And informal sector is, areas of entrepreneurship. I mean, spaces for entrepreneurs. Yes. So we shouldn't just look at the white collar jobs. We should also look at the informal sectors, or what they call the blue
collar jobs. And when young people hear of blue collar jobs, they are like, hii ni kitu ya kushikilia. Something I'm just working on for now as I go to a white collar job. What do you say about this?
No, Mutegi, that has changed, and that has to change if it hasn't changed fully. That informal sector is not, the blue collar job is not the other. It is the space now. It is the sector that is providing the jobs that we're talking about. Just like I was telling you, 80% of the working population, youth working population, is actually in the informal sector. And so it's not a place for just to hold on for a bit. It's a place where young people must seek to find space and to make a living. So it's no longer a transition kind of stage. Yes. It is the space. It is the stage. So sio pahali pa kushikilia tena. And then about COVID, you asked about COVID.
COVID, yes.
Definitely COVID has a huge impact on different aspects of our society, diverse people, but most importantly, young people.
Yes.
Like I mentioned, 80% of the working population of young people are actually in the informal sector. Informal sector has been hard hit by this COVID. And that means many more young people have lost their source of livelihood. And that means as a result of COVID, many more young people are now unemployed. Many more young people are now jobless. So COVID has caused double trouble and has increased unemployment amongst young people. And so it's a huge, huge challenge and something that we really need to think of. How are we going to help young people to build back and to build back better, to be able to recover their sources of livelihood? Yeah.
And I love to talk about what the government is doing and what we are doing in relation to working with the government towards achieving employment for many youth. We have seen Kazi Mtaani come on board.
Yeah.
How big is the impact on fighting unemployment in this particular country?
I think any intervention to address youth unemployment, I think, is welcome, and it is great initiative that government is coming up with various intervention, and most recently Kazi Mtaani. And the idea of Kazi Mtaani was is actually a national hygiene program, and the idea the first phase when it was introduced, the idea was, let's create opportunities for young people to sort of make a living during these very hard times, as they also address the question of environment. Cleaning the environment, taking care of the sanitation, making sure that they open up drainage, making sure that they clear bushes, making sure, which I think it's creating an opportunity like that for young people. I wouldn't look down upon that kind of an initiative. And I think if you look at the target was largely creating opportunities, especially in the informal settlements. And now I think they are in 23 informal settlements. The first phase targeted a few constituencies. The second phase has increased the number of constituencies that they are targeting. And I think in this financial year, they've been allocated about 10 billions to be able to roll out that program. I think that's a good thing, but that's not a sustainable initiative. It's a good it's a temporary measure, but I don't think it's a sustainable initiative. But I think it's a good thing, and especially they need to address some of the loopholes that have affected previous programs, Kazi kwa Vijana, and many others that came before that.
Yes.
And most importantly, they need to address the question of corruption, because in the last Kazi kwa Vijana, there was this saying that kazi kwa vijana, pesa kwa wazee. That shouldn't happen. Truly, if young people are struggling to eke a living and there's an opportunity like that, they should be able to benefit.
Specifically now, questions are rising because a number of those young people that are working in Kazi Mtaani have not been paid. And we have seen this a couple of times where young people are complaining that monies are not coming to them. What do you think is a major problem, and how can this be solved once and for all?
I think we need to have sort of a seamless system in a way that money reaches these young people, not just sometime, but at the right time, because that is what is not happening. And sometimes because of many challenges, government bureaucracy. So they need to cut the red tape and ensure that the system is smooth to an extent that money reaches these young people. They're supposed to pay it on a weekly basis. They say they're supposed to be paid through M-Pesa. Then we realize that some of these young people also have taken loans. And so money, when money is money is sent to them, the people they owe sometimes deduct these amounts without necessarily telling these young people. So I think government needs to take into consideration all these factors. All these factors, and ensure that this money that is supposed to reach young people reaches young people, and there shouldn't be any delays or bureaucracy. And I like that the PS, Mr. Hinga, said that if there is ever issues of corruption in Kazi Mtaani, it should be hanged at Uhuru Park. I think we will take him to his word, because in the past we've seen young people work so hard, go out of their way to take up some of these opportunities, and then who benefits? It's not these young people. So we must make sure that these young people meet. First of all, also the money that the wages that are being paid is really little. They're supposed to be paid 1,000 shillings a week. Really small amount, and I'm not saying it's not amount at all. I mean, it's money, but
something that can keep people pushing.
So make sure they get this money on time.
Yes, in good time. And talking about the many problems that the youth are facing at this particular time, and even in the past, there had been a need for a youth congress. And let's talk about what the Youth Congress is doing now that you have been involved with them and you're involved with them to fight for the rights of the young people in this country. What is the Youth Congress doing, and who are these? Many young people are asking, who are these? Who are these people?
I mean, the Youth Congress is an idea that came about as a result of we realize that young people are always locked out. Young people are always on the margins. Young people are always excluded. But it's not just a mistake of someone else. It's also a mistake by young people themselves. We are not we are not mobilizing ourselves. We are not organizing ourselves. And so for us to be able to champion some of our causes and for us to be able to demand some of our rights, and also to take our rightful space, and also to come up with solutions that can address some of our challenges, we need to organize ourselves. And so Youth Congress is one such initiative. And we came together as young people and we said, look, there are challenges of governance. What can we do? Let's come together. Let's organize ourselves. Is the problem knowledge? Is the problem information? Let's come together and see how best we can share information and knowledge that can help us to participate in an informed way. We said the other challenge is economic development, issues of unemployment amongst young people. And like I said, it's a big burden for many young people. What can we do? We can continue pushing the government to create an enabling environment, but we must also organize ourselves in a way that we can amplify our voices to make sure that we are heard.
And how do you do that?
I mean, we do petitions, we do memorandums, we engage with what we call duty bearers and policy makers, let them know whenever they're coming up with any laws or whenever there are challenges and gaps on how that young people are not just a problem or people with the problems. We are also organized to provide solutions. And so we are not standing somewhere and waiting for someone to provide solutions for us. So yeah, things like that. And we are also doing entrepreneurship. We are supporting young people who've organized themselves on issues of entrepreneurship.
What is this, in case anyone is interested in knowing the kind of work that you do, what is this organization? Is it 5 people coming together and asking for help?
No. Yeah. I mean, it's not really about numbers, but it's more about the
initiative.
The initiative, yeah. And we've supported during this period, we've supported young people who are doing different kind of enterprises or different kind of entrepreneurship initiatives. We've provided them with equipment, whether you're talking about car wash machines, whether you're talking about young people who are engaged in agribusiness, giving them things like freezers, different kind of equipment that can enable them to be able to run their businesses. Because it seems like no one is focusing on young people, so young people themselves have to focus on each other, and that's what we are doing with the Youth Congress. Yeah, amazing,
and I hope we really get to see you making more bold moves for the youth, and we are happy for what you're doing. Definitely.
Thank you so much.
My director tells me we have like 5 minutes, and I feel like we need to go to this particular one that you have been, part and parcel of, the Youth Development Policy 2019. I have it right here, just in case you're wondering what this is. This is what I'm talking about. Has been recently launched. Tell us all about this and how. The youth just want to know, how is it going to help me?
Yeah, is it
somewhere in Kitui, somewhere in Kisii? How is this document going to help me?
Yeah. First of all, the first youth policy was developed in 2006. It was supposed to be reviewed every 5 years. That never happened until 2016 when we started advocating for review of that youth policy, because that youth policy that was developed in 2006, after a few years, it was outdated. It was not in tune with the realities of the moment. We had a new constitution. That policy was not in tune with that. We had Vision 2030. That was not in tune with that. So many other things compelled us to push for the review of the youth policy, which began in 2016, and now we have a Kenya Youth Development Policy. A policy is important. It's not just another paper. A policy provides a solid platform for planning, for programming, for budgeting. It is a document that you can use now to hold the government accountable and say, look, in the policy you had indicated that you are going to create this number of jobs. You had indicated that you're going to create these institutions. You had indicated that this is how you seek to address challenges that we are facing as young people. You are not doing it. It's based on this policy that you can hold the government accountable. You can monitor implementation of this policy. This policy is like the guide to ensure that government addresses the challenges, harnesses the potential of young people, and ensures that young people are involved in governance and in development as equal members of the society. So it's a very, very important document which is supposed to transform the lives of youth now and generations to come.
Just another quick question: who is supposed to read this? Is it available for youth?
Yes, it should. This is the youth. This is the document that is meant for youth. It should be like our ABC kind of a document. So we should be the ones. Every young person in this country should have this document. So if you don't have it, you should get it. And
where can we get it?
Soft copies are available on the Ministry of ICT and Youth. You can get a soft copy on the website. You can get a copy from the government printers. You can get copies from different youth centers. This is a document that you need to read and understand what is the framework the government has put in place to address the challenges affecting the youth, to create opportunities for the youth, to ensure a greater inclusion of youth, like I said, in governance and in development. And so if you do not understand it, I mean, if you do not have it, please get it. And I think it's a very, very important document. Like I said, it's supposed to transform the lives and the lives of youth now and generations to come.
Amazing, amazing. Yeah. Just one more question before we wind this up. You are an external advisor to UN Habitat.
Correct.
Challenges affecting, and of course you're working with a wider scope, looking at other countries as well.
Correct.
Are the challenges facing Kenyan youth also affecting youth elsewhere?
Certainly. If you look at youth unemployment, it's not unique to Kenya. Youth unemployment is now a serious challenge across the continent, and beyond. In Europe, we've seen how young people are facing serious challenges of lack of jobs or unemployment, if you like. So the issue is how different countries are trying to address this challenge. And so this is not a problem that is unique to Kenya. In fact, you will be shocked that Kenya perhaps is at a better level than a couple of other countries. But I think we can do more with the resources that we have, with the opportunities that we have. And I think the government should do more. If you look at what has been allocated, for example, for Kazi Mtaani, 10 billion, that's very little. If you say you want to give young people 1,000 shillings, and some of these young people have had a chance to interact with some of these young people who are in Kazi Mtaani, some of them are graduates. Imagine paying a graduate 1,000 shillings every week. That's not fair. So we should see more interventions, but these interventions must also be at par with the magnitude of the problem. If we are saying we want to address youth unemployment, we must realize every year we have 1 million young people who are joining the labor market. How do we make sure that these young people have the right opportunities, have the right sort of career opportunities for them?
Amazing. I'm sorry. I feel a lot of passion when you're talking about matters youth, but unfortunately we have come to the end of this because of time constraints. Okay. But we're going to have you back to. This is a huge conversation that doesn't come to an end.
Like I said, this is something that we should focus on every day.
Definitely, definitely. Just within 10 seconds, just look at this camera. Speak to a young person who is discouraged in this particular country.
No, I think young people shouldn't be discouraged. We must know that we are not just the future, we are also the present. And we must also know that we are not just a problem or people with the problems, but we have the solutions. The challenges we are facing, we have the potential to resolve them. And so we shouldn't imagine that someone else is going to resolve these challenges for us. And let no one tell you that you are inadequate because you do not have experience. Always remind them that you have fresh ideas, you have creativity, and you have talent. And that is equally important.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mutegi, and I really appreciate it. And KUTV, you're doing amazing stuff, and keep doing it.
Thank you so much, sir. We're going to have you back. Definitely. Okay. These conversations has to go on. That was Raphael Obonyo, and that is still Raphael Obonyo. He's a youth advocate. He's not going anywhere. He's here to, tetea haki zako kama kijana. Let me use Swahili in that particular juncture. He's also authored a book, Conversations About the Youth in Kenya, forwarded by the only one, Dr. Willy Mutunga. You want to read this and understand where we are as young people in this particular country. And Kazi Mtaani is also doing quite well, and I want to leave you with this.